So when we first got into the deliberation room, we all decided to kind of come out and say what we felt based off of just the trial themselves without any deliberation first, and we were pretty split. Some people were just undecided in general, so we were going back and forth trading ideas and how we felt about what occurred throughout the trial. And that's when we decided to look at the knives, get the videos from the room, the interrogation, and from there on, it just never seemed to go either way. The DNA was what really split us apart.
What was the thought process of the jury with the DNA?
We all came to a consensus that there was only one knife used, so we kind of excluded that part of the DNA evidence. The thing with the DNA evidence that really split us apart was with the bloodstains on his jacket, with the possible contributors in the matches. Some of us took possible contributors as the DNA number that, as she was explaining, everybody has their own certain numbers, was there, but it couldn't be defined as a match because of the close relativity of everybody in the room. And some people took it as, well, if it's not a match, it's not there. And that's where it really got ugly at that point, because it was just a lot of just back and forth with that.
When you say back and forth, what was happening with that?
Basically just going back and forth to, trying to prove that a possible contributor, there's only one way, sorry, a possible contributor would be there is if the blood was actually there. Because in my opinion, if that DNA number wasn't there, then it would be excluded. That's the way I took it. That's the way some of the other jurors took it. Some of them took it as, if it's not a match, it's not there.
So how was the split? I mean, was it 6 and 6, 5 and 4, 7 and 5, whatever it was?
Unfortunately, it was seven jurors that found that there wasn't enough evidence to prove he was guilty for killing the children, and 5 who found there was enough evidence to prove he was guilty.
The jury thought, some of the people thought that you couldn't say exactly who was stabbed. What was that? Was it?
It was more of the when she explained it, she said that you get one chromosome from your mother, one chromosome from your father. So because all of them were all 3 of the girls were her children, they all shared one chromosome with her.
Right.
So when it came to the biological father's chromosome, that was shown as a possible contributor, but the other chromosome was matched her mother, and her blood was everywhere because of the amount of time she was stabbed. They couldn't come up with the definitive match. So for some of us, we understood that as that way, that the blood was present, just couldn't be seen as a definite match because of the same chromosome shared between all 4 of them. Others took it as, well, if it's not a match, then the blood's not there, or it was there because it was a mixture that was transferred from Rebecca to Michael.
Was it heated? I mean, it's...
Very.
And how long would you say it was heated? I mean, was it shouting? Was it yelling? Was there anything like that? Or?
I would probably take responsibility for most of the shouting. I'm a very loud person as it is, and when I have a strong belief, I don't back down, and I continue to state my point, and I guess the more frustrated I got, the louder I got, and it was going back and forth. I mean, it was bad. There were a lot of people were yelling, not at one another in kind of a personal way,
right,
but just to get your point across. I mean, nobody there has any dislike for one another within the jury. I mean, people were saying, yesterday that, defense attorney yesterday when I was talking to him said, it seemed like you all pretty much liked each other. And outside of that, we did. It was just we all had our differences of opinion. And
was that so the DNA was really the main issue as far as the kids? I mean, did you people discuss Michael Sykes' story as to how he said it happened, that Rebecca Cutler was trying to get back at him, so she stabs the 2 girls who aren't his girls first, says, I'm going to hurt you. Then she says, now I'm going to really hurt you. When she goes and allegedly, as he says, stabs Malia, who's the daughter of Common. did people, and then his actions afterwards, did people think that made sense, or was that even, separate from the DNA evidence? What did people think of his testimony?
We discussed that a lot. I believe that the 5 people that were for him being guilty for murdering children, that was our biggest thing because of how often he changed his story between the interrogation. He changed his story twice while he was on the stand himself. And that was our biggest thing, the fact that he changed it so much, it was so hard to believe him, and it didn't make sense. I mean, through all the evidence that was given, it just didn't seem as she was the type to go ahead and do that. I mean, the video, she was cleaning the room of the hotel, and that was our biggest thing, like, why was she cleaning the room? Just to kill the kids? It didn't make sense to any of us. And the other jurors that were on the other side, saying not guilty, they were going based off the hard evidence, the DNA, that there was no physical proof that he did it, and that's kind of where we were at a standstill.
Okay. So even though some people weren't sure who killed the kids, or they thought that and then Michael Sykes said he killed Rebecca to try to stop her from stabbing Malia, it was still thought that his actions were not justified. He said, why was that?
The way we viewed it is, based off his testimony, he said that he wrestled the knife away from her.
Right.
And at that point, when in our minds, you got the knife away from her, she is no longer a threat. Therefore, you took extra steps and you went further than reasonable to so-called protect your daughter. So that to us that was unjustifiable, because once you got the knife away, she was no longer a threat.
Did the number of stabs and wounds and where they occurred, 60 stab wounds, mostly to her back, was that also play into that?
Absolutely. I mean, it can't be self-defense if the stab wounds are to her back. We did deliberate on the number of stab wounds, but at the same time we said how many stab wounds is too many, which was kind of where do you draw the line at how many stab wounds is rage and how many stab wounds is self-defense.
Stopped after the last note was sent out, and then the judge took a partial verdict. He didn't think that any further deliberations would help because of a medical condition. Do you think it would have been possible to go on deliberating, or no? It was just, do you think it would have changed anything? You just think it was just really hopelessly deadlocked?
It was hopelessly deadlocked. We were at a point where, at some points in deliberation, we weren't even just talking. We were just sitting there in silence because nobody even knew what to say to one another at that point.
Really? What did you think of when he testified? I know you said he changed his story. What did you think of him? He was very calm. They said it was because of medication he was taking. What did you think of his testimony? You didn't think it was believable?
Not one bit. Him being calm, they blamed it on medication, right. But even in the interrogation video, the videos right. of him on the bus, on the ferry, he was calm all through that. And in my mind, I don't know how, if you just witnessed your daughter stabbed to death, be calm in any sense of the matter. And that was pre-medication because he wasn't on medication until after.
Did these deliberations take a physical toll on you?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
I am the sick juror. I have a condition called Crohn's disease. I've been taking care of it and managing it for quite some time, and the stress of just going back and forth and just being upset almost every day leaving was just, it took a physical toll on me to the point that every night I was sick. I would wake up sick and just emotionally, physically, mentally drained.